amount of change we're going to see over the next 5 years, 10 years, will dwarf everything that's happened over the last 30.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Self. Good morning. And with that Mark Cuban assessment, we've used that before, but it's particularly important today as we talk about the job market and alternate strategies to advance your career. I'm John Self. I spent 27 years in global executive search. I've been an executive career coach and job search strategist since the late to mid 20s, 2015, 2016. For 10 years, I taught the interviewing course for a global professional association at their annual Congress. So I've been there, kind of done that. I've got a couple of t-shirts, and I'm here to share my insights and expertise and give you some context with what's going on in the marketplace today. So let's get started. Our focus on CareerLIVE is we try to look at what's going on in the news very briefly as it relates to the economy and the jobs picture, and then we talk very specifically about a search strategy. I think the job report this week, everybody kind of was shocked that it was exceeded expectations. The rate of core inflation remains heated, or as the financial press likes to say, it came in hot. It was a tenth of a percent above what everybody thought it would be. Investor hopes that interest rates will be reduced, I think, are pretty much gone. If you're talking about interest rate reductions before the fall elections, I think as Dr. Red Duke at UT Medical School used to say, you can piss on the fire and call in the dogs because that hunt's over. It may get some favorable reports later in the summer, but with core inflation still heated, with a lot of the lower level positions having job shortages, waitresses and support personnel, those are areas where the job market is hot. Workers are asking for more money, or they're moving on to another job. It's not uncommon to go into restaurants and have 30 or 40 tables open and be told it'll be a 30-minute wait because they only have a few waiters. So this is a problem. And the question is, do we? In a lot of the states, the federal wage for a waiter is like less than $3 an hour, and they say you get it on the tips. In my opinion, it has always been that's a financial system that encourages tax cheating, and it happens all the time. But that's the way the market works right now, and so those areas are really depressed because people can go get a guaranteed job with guaranteed benefits at a higher rate in that entry level to mid-level part of the jobs picture. When you get to management and executive positions, it's a horse of a different color. I think that while unemployment the unemployment rate is fairly good condition. The question is, why then is the management executive job market rates so competitive? And a lot of that, as we've talked before, has been the contraction in the marketplace. Now, what's so interesting is we have a contracting marketplace scenario, management and executives, and yet they're still laying off in multiple industries. Those things are continuing. They're not doing big newsy, big flashy layoffs with hundreds or thousands. But companies are going to revert from the wholesale layoffs to strategic reductions in force. And what that means is they're using those strategic reductions to manage their profit and cash flow, because a lot of companies, let's look at Google. Google's ad revenue has been down significantly post-pandemic, and Google is now reducing the headcount of their company, and they're using the money they save from that to fund those initiatives that they used to when the cash was a lot freer than it is today. Now, Google is in no immediate threat of financial ruin, but they are doing what all companies should do. If your cash flow decreases because your revenue is decreasing, and you still have innovations and new developments you have to fund, then you've got to come up with that money someplace. And when you're a company as big as Google, they can look at divisions and say, okay, that division is not performing what we thought it would. It's a developmental division. We'll just lay off people and pick it up later. And they can do that. They in some of those roles, they view the employees as just a fungible expense. And when you have these kind of crazy dynamic conflicts, treating. It's hard to keep a straight face when you say to the investors, our employees are our most important asset, because the investors are out there going, oh, excuse me, we expect a good return or we'll find a new CEO. So a lot of pressure. There are some companies that are very, very white shoe, and they are very, very concerned about their image. And so what they're doing for excess employees, instead of just laying them off, they're putting them on PIPs, performance improvement strategies. Their team leaders are being very, very picky and very, very aggressive at employee reviews. So they put you on a PIP, and then within 60 days, they show you the front door. I don't think that's a very appropriate way to trim your headcount when you made a strategic error and hired too many people, but that's what's happening in some consulting companies. So the market is really a jumble. I think the layoffs continue, and I think they're driving consolidations of jobs in management and executive ranks. I think there are going to be fewer management and executive jobs, and that's across multiple sectors, from healthcare, retail, publishing, communications, technology. Do you realize technology? The tech industry laid off almost 300,000 employees last year. This is a staggering number. And the days of lattes and free food and foosball and all of those massage therapists and free Starbucks coffee, I think those days for a lot of companies are over and they'll never come back again. I think what you have to do is you start looking at, if you think this is not going to affect you, I think I would argue that is a significant strategic error in career management. These consolidations, they are increasing competition for the available jobs. And this contributes to the time to place frame. Used to it was 6 to 8 months, or maybe 9 or 10 months for an executive who was at the high end of the scale. It's now 8 to 14 months, and that's growing. And people who have great records in management, who've produced results consistently, who didn't have a network, it's taking them hundreds of applications to get one offer. And I have a great friend, somebody I really respect. He was a healthcare executive, found another health-related segment that wanted his expertise because they were growing their practice. This guy loved it. It was a great marriage because he grew up loving horses, and this is a veterinarian practice, a very large one that's consolidating, and they're doing roll-ups in Texas, and they provide care to some of the really expensive racehorses and other livestock, large animals. They also have companion animal practice, but they are a very, very successful practice, and they wanted his healthcare skills to come into the practice so that it would operate better. And it looks like it's going to be a good match. So that's kind of an interesting. That's a career move in many, many respects. So I would encourage you, as you go forward, you really have to be more aggressive at networking. Now, I know, God, is this guy a broken record or what? But if you don't have a network, and if you don't continue to build a network, it's going to take you longer to find a job. It's going to be much more frustrating. It's going to be much more emotionally debilitating. And it's going to be very, very costly. And because you're going to have to start eating into, unless you've got a spouse that's has a good income, you're going to end up digging into your retirement funds or your savings. So keep networking. You can't sit back and say, well, I've never had to do this. I was in this job 10 years. People know who I am. Why isn't the phone ringing? Well, a lot of reasons. You got to have you've got a network. You got to have a LinkedIn profile that the scanners see. The scanners are things that LinkedIn is sourcing candidates. So it's a jumble right now. It's a very dynamic situation. And then when you factor in what Mark Cuban has said about how technology is going to really start squeezing the job market, and he has another quote in that interview. He says, the guy said, well, we're going to have a lot of jobs training. And he said, train them to do what? Train them to do what? You got to stop and look at your career and say, okay, am I in a career that I can be replaced by a computer doing processing? A lot of the financial industry is going to see big changes. A lot of the accounting firms and big changes. A lot of the work that were done by entry level people is going to be done by computers going forward. And instead of having junior executives crunching numbers, you're going to feed in the data, and the computer you feed in the data and the AI parameters for what you want looking at, and you'll get a comprehensive report. And so there's going to be a lot fewer jobs. And again, Cuban's comment when he said, well, we have to train these people to do other things. And he said, what? A lot of jobs in the next 10 years are going to disappear. What are these people going to do? Well, if you're in that group, you need to think about what you can do for the future. People are going to need to eat. People are going to need to repair their cars. People are going to have to need their lawns groomed and their gardens taken care of. And so there are a lot of jobs that AI cannot impact. And the impact in some of these areas is going to be much slower. If you're in construction, that's not going to be a position. You're going to see technology. You're going to see more concrete homes built. I mean, when you build a concrete home with a 3D printer, I know that sounds crazy. You absolutely reduce the number of workers on the site by 40%. When you look at a framing crew on a big 4 or 5 bedroom house, and then you look at what it takes to do the 3D printer with concrete. And that's happening. There's a whole subdivision in Austin being built with 3D printers. So a lot of changes, a lot of disruption, a lot of jobs are going to be lost. And, you say, but John, they're saying that it's just going to change how the jobs work and we're still going to be okay. I think that's what they're telling you to kind of not have any heartburn short term. They don't want to say things that will cause you to panic in an election year at a time when the economy is already kind of on shaky ground. But I guarantee you, if you talk to the major executives across all industries, they will tell you that the artificial intelligence wave, this is coming much faster than most people realize. Okay, now, what is the workplace going to look like in the future? Now, companies are restructuring and determine what employment will mean in the future. Now, management and executive job markets are transforming how we work. And so as you look at jobs and opportunities, they may not be traditional jobs as you have come to know them, but you can earn a decent living. And let's talk about how this just-in-time, on-demand, contingency employment workforce. There are some industries that have been doing this for years, and you just don't see it. Let's take a big hotel in Chicago or New York that that consistently host banquets, big events. They can't pay banquet waiters and bus help for those big events to be on the payroll all the time because they only may have 4 or 5 or 6 of those, or maybe if they're really busy, maybe 20 of those a month. And so they use just-in-time or contingency waiters. And they have various structures, but they're not paying them to sit at home. They get paid when they wait the tables and serve the banquets. And so, the same thing in housekeeping and hotels. On low check-in days, they scale their housekeeping staff back. They don't employ those people. They contract with a third-party provider. They don't start paying those people until they walk in the door. As you'll see probably the more housekeepers in hotels on Sunday, all day Sunday and Monday, and on Thursday when you have consultant checkout on Thursday, meeting check-ins on Wednesday, Thursday, and then checkouts on Sunday. That's when they peak their staffing. Hospitals are doing it now with nurses. It is something that it's called flex staffing in healthcare. It's something that they have to do in order to maintain their financial stability. And for the most part, the nurses don't push back too much. But as that becomes more common, hospitals and organizations that do this are going to have to be more creative in how they keep those people connected to the organization. I think in the future, you're going to see core employees, you're going to see retained employees, and I think you're going to see contingency employees, and we're going to talk about that today. Okay. Now, I think it's really important that you avoid letting yourself get trapped with what the workforce was, what your career was 10 years ago, and what it was 5 years ago, until the layoff, until you decided to change jobs, or until they closed the company down or whatever. So a lot of people come in and say I have seen executives turn down extremely lucrative interim assignments because I can't do that and still look for a job. And I only want to have a full-time job. Hold that thought, okay? So you can't allow yourself to get trapped by this traditional full-time status. Companies are frankly, you're going to adjust how they structure the workforce. And I think you're going to see a lot of companies, and sounds very cruel and very counterintuitive, but you're going to see benefits reduced to only those core employees that are essential for the enterprise to run on a day-to-day basis. And then you're going to see just-in-time or on-demand employees that are maybe on a minimal retainer. They have a contract that they have to respond to requests for work on a consistent basis, or some parameters, and they get a retainer, but they have more specific expertise and play a vital support role for the company. And then you'll have people that are in project orientation, project management, construction management, those types of things, maybe rolling out a special marketing campaign. Those will be contingency as needed. So if you are currently in an organization and you are in the social media sector of PR, you might find yourself getting squeezed. So what it might work is you might find that be a smart move to begin thinking about making relationships with potential outside clients, so that if you do have your hours cut back, or if you do get a layoff and the offer to come back and work on a contract basis, then you have some other revenue coming in, and we're going to build on that as we go through this information today. And I think when people say, well, how big is the core group going to be? It's going to depend on the size of the industry, what the industry requires that the employer provide in terms of services, and the size of the enterprise. Now, let's look at hospitals. You have to have nurses there full time. You have to have lab people there. You have to have x-ray people there. And then you have to have the support people that are necessary to make those functions work. But what you'll see is that hospitals are going to look very, very aggressively at their processing and their scheduling, so that they can operate more efficiently. Hospitals that have built all these inpatient beds, they said, well, God, we were full during the pandemic. Well, we're going to get back on track to have more outpatient care than inpatient care. So you're going to see a lot of healthcare organizations have to restructure how they staff. As I said earlier, hotels have used these staffing structures for housekeeping and banquet staff people for years. We don't see it, or we don't think about it. Well, it's time to kind of begin thinking about it. Now, department stores are in the same boat. They've used on-call sales rep for holiday seasons. FedEx and UPS have a group of employees that they try to bring back every holiday season. And you're also going to see the growth in the concept of fractional CEOs and CFOs and compliance officers. For example, let's talk about this. A small hospital, is not immune from compliance issues, but they cannot afford a full-time compliance officer. They don't, and you really don't want somebody there who has the name compliance officer who doesn't know that piece of the doesn't have that expertise. So you're going to see fractional executives, a compliance officer that may support 8 or 9 hospitals, not some big corporation with a toll-free line, but somebody who's a real person who can take calls and provide the support on a regular basis, who knows the organization, who knows the issues. You're going to see more of that as, say, a 250-bed hospital, says, we have compliance issues, but we need to put processes in place that automate those more, and then we have a fractional CFO or a fractional compliance officer that may be with us 1 or 2 days a week. And so you're going to see a lot of that, and it won't be on with benefits. It's going to be a contract type of position. You see it now in a lot of construction projects. Sometimes they just hire the company, and the company then goes out and hires a project manager. If you're in that kind of business, you're going to learn how to market your expertise to the people who can hire you. And it may not be, quote, the traditional employee. One of the issues I think is really key is we have allowed ourselves to be trapped by yesterday's definition of career security. And I really think you really have to start playing with this idea to get yourself comfortable so that you can move away with this, because this is coming. There's no question that this is going to come. How fast and how radical, I don't know. But I suggest within the next 5 to 7 years, some of the things that we're talking about today are going to seem like old yesterday's blasé news. So you have to move away from that the feeling that this is what my employment has to be. I have to have this. I have to have full-time. I have to have benefits. I have to have retirement. You know what? I know people who've left Exxon. I know people who've left, these big corporations because they downsized for stock, for shareholder equity, whatever, just a whole host of reasons. Even the CEO's bonus can be tied to it. Okay, greed. But everyone that I know that did that was really specialized, ended up getting contracts back with that employer and other employers, and ended up making more money than they ever made as a full-time employee. And they had the opportunity to buy their own benefits in the marketplace, or they jumped on their wife's plan. These are if the wife was working. So these are things that happen. This is not some just crazy theoretical pipe dream. Consultants who get laid off and start selling their expertise to other companies. Now you have to be careful about not violating any proprietary information that could get you sued, but you bring the context of those proprietary, that knowledge that can help that organization that you're contracting with be more effective and not make some of the same implementation mistakes. So if you've got really good marketing skills or a good marketable information, expertise and knowledge, then you have a great chance to continue to have a great career. It just may not be with one employer. And we've been talking about this for several weeks as well. I think as the allergy medicine is slow to kick in today, I think I'll just pause. Coffee. That's what I'm addicted to. The world of business and career management is really, it's absolutely shaking under our feet. Now, people who live in areas outside the earthquake zones, when they have an anomaly, a rare earthquake, and they start shaking, they don't know what it is. After a few minutes, they'll figure it out, and by then it's gone. But it's unnerving when it happens on a regular basis if you're not really used to it. Well, you have to, that's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing some earthquakes in industries that we've never seen this before, or a certain working class, managers and executives who've always been laid off and been fired for performance, or been laid off because of mergers, etc. But this now is something that is real, and it's going to happen on a more regular basis, a recurring basis. So they feel the ground shifting and they don't know what to make of it. They're not sure. Let me tell you, it's a tectonic shift. Don't waste a lot of time trying to understand why it's happening. Don't waste a lot of time digging in your heels. That is an absolute waste of time. Start to understand these issues and get comfortable with them. I had a great picture of a guy shooting himself in the foot, but it was not. It's too early in the morning for that. So don't get hung up on finding a full-time job when you might even earn more as an on-demand executive specialist. This could be, if you set it up right, if you have some connections or are good at making connections, this could be a promising, very lucrative strategy for the rest of your career. And I know people out there that have done this. They didn't necessarily want to when they got started. Now you couldn't put them back into a full-time traditional employment mode for the price of tea in China. Okay, so there's something, if you've never done this before, if you really haven't had this serious conversation with yourself before, here's some steps you need to consider. First of all, if this is a new idea, you got to do your homework. You need to talk to successful on-demand executives, and you can try and run them down. I don't know how to do that. Well, that may suggest that you're not going to be successful in selling yourself and career networking, because that's the key to getting those assignments. You have to play with the idea mentally, emotionally. And also, you need to get your partner or spouse involved in this, because a lot of people in these roles end up traveling to remote locations and they're home twice a month. You know, for a newlywed couple, we're not talking a good strategy here. But you know, I have friends that, you know, have growing, their kids are almost grown or they are grown, and they have found it to be just an absolutely perfect lifestyle where the wife will come up a couple of weeks. I've got one of my associates is running a major consulting project in Newark. Not a place he would live under any circumstances, but the pay is extremely good. And when the weekends he doesn't fly back to Texas, he will, you know, maybe go into New York, or he'll go down and explore. He spent one weekend just prowling through the Seward Sculpture Garden, which is magnificent. He's toured around Robert down in Princeton and walked through that campus. So he said, I'm seeing things that I would have never seen in my life, including a sunset in a Nebraska cornfield. And he said, everybody would say, gee, that's kind of stupid. And he said, let me tell you something. It was profoundly moving. It was profoundly moving emotionally. He said, I teared up because I realized that I was seeing something from a different perspective that I saw every day in Dallas and every day in Texarkana and other places that I've been. But to stand in a middle of a cornfield, and to watch sunset. He said it was just amazing how moving that was. And he said, I never would have been able to have that experience. You'll be able to see things that you never thought you could see. So that's one of the advantages. And when you start having those conversations, when you start playing with this idea, you've got to be very honest with yourself about the upsides and the downsides. Now, we're looking at probably a 3, 5, 7, or 10-year range here where you're just going to see major upheavals. So it's time. You want to get out in front on this. You want to establish yourself before, everybody else comes to the table. You don't want to be the last one. You don't want to be the last one to the dance. Okay. If you have a board of advisors or just a group of friends that you talk to on a regular basis and that you've sought advice from in the past, you get their input. Do they see you being able to do this? Can you be comfortable? Another thing you have to do is when you talk to people, do they see you being comfortable with rainmaking, which is kind of a corporate executive business development term for sales? Okay? And you can always do a one engagement because you're not committing to anything other than the one assignment you take. And, if the job of your dreams comes along, you don't really want to break a contract, but you would not be the first interim executive that left an assignment early to take on a permanent role. Now, you want to be sure your contract doesn't have with your interim association or your broker or whoever you're working with, it doesn't have punitive cancellations, and very few of them do, except for the most high-paid, most critical positions. But it doesn't mean you can have to stop a job search. It just means that you avoid having gaps in your resume. And as I said earlier, new employment structures could create new opportunities to generate more income. So the dynamic conflict, excitement, romance of owning your own firm, building a business, designing your logo, having some business cards printed, thinking about how you're going to market yourself, with the reality that it's all on you. You eat what you kill. And that's what a lot of us have been doing for a lot of years. I cannot imagine. There are days that, gosh, I wish I had a $3,000 or $4,000 check coming in from an employer. But the truth is, I have much more satisfaction of being able to move in a way that I want to move And to be honest with myself, when you run into a wall and you say, well, this idea, this strategy is not working, I've got to go reinvent myself. But if you're running your own company and you have an LLC and you, for liability purposes, that's constant on your resume. And you can always keep track of the assignments you've done and list those so that it doesn't look like it's just a fake resume filler. So the dynamic conflict that you have to be aware of. Enjoy the romance. Get excited by the romance of owning your own firm. But the reality is, it's all on you. So we're wrapping up now. I want to share with you something we're working on diligently. And we have a 3-hour career management session coming up at the end of this month. We're going to cover all facets of the job search and career management. We have some guest speakers, and we're adding some more shortly. Registrants get an unlimited 60-day on-demand access to the replays of each session. Now, the great news is the tuition is free. We're trying to build our company and build our reputation. So while the tuition is free, seating is very limited. So you need to sign up today. Visit johngself.com and click the red button on the right side of the homepage, and that'll take you to our portfolio page, and it's right there. You can see the boot camp sign up. You don't have to give a credit card. You just have to provide us your name and email address so we can keep you informed of developments. So we hope you will join us for April 27th. If you're not a registrant, you probably won't be able to get access to all the sessions, but you can get access to our support as a career member. So if you join our membership for $49 a month, you get access to all of our ongoing education programs. These kinds of sessions will be behind a paywall at some point. When our membership program goes, it's fairly new, and we're just beginning to build that. So we hope that you'll consider joining us. And as we gain more members, and this is going to be a lot of the stuff we do each week in terms of live group coaching will be members only. Excuse me. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we'll be here answering your questions on your career questions, and we do that live. So if you have questions you want to ask, go ahead and send them to me at info@johngself.com. That's info@johngself.com, and we will then get to those tomorrow morning. You can also, if you're watching live, you can drop in your question in the comment box. Hold on a second. I get a comment box. And we'll answer that live. We do not use names. And my old friend Peter in New Jersey just checked in. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate you watching. Sometimes when you look at the live streams, you don't have many people watching live, but by the end of the week, so the numbers grow. So this is all new to me. I never thought I would be doing live TV in my career. That just wasn't anywhere on my radar screen. Matter of fact, when I was a print reporter for the Houston Post, we used to kind of make fun of the TV guys. So it's always funny about be careful, what you pray for or what you don't want to do because you may end up doing it. Okay, we'll get back a couple more items here. I want you to look at our Substack newsletter. It comes out every Wednesday until May 6th. If you're a member of our group, Guiding Your Career, then you get a free subscription. If you sign up today through May 6th, you get a free subscription. After May 6th, it's going to be, I think, $7 a month. So we encourage you to become a member. We have over 500 members now, and we hope that you'll think about joining our Substack Guiding Your Career newsletter. We usually have one story and a secondary story each week. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is reinforcing something that I know I'm a broken record of. If you aren't keeping a journal in your career, in your job search, you're making a huge, huge mistake. I've been journaling since, forever. And I try to start each day writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I find that when I do that, and I don't always do it, some days I'm a slacker, but when I do that, I find that it absolutely helps me have a much better day because it resets my mind to look at the positive and not the negative. And the research shows that when your mind is very positive and very hopeful, you're going to be more creative, more open to new ideas. That's why it's so important, if you're in a job search, to journal and to do those things that are going to help lift your spirits. Because if you're constantly depressed because of all the rejection, then it's hard to be creative in your thinking. It's hard to think outside the box. It's hard to see new potential opportunities. It's sort of like the person that turned down that incredible interim assignment because he wanted to be a full-time person. You gotta be more creative than that. You've got to get outside. You've got to get outside that thinking. And I think that it's just going to take time for people to kind of come to grips with that. Don't wait too long, and keep a journal now, because it'll help you. It'll help you see what you're doing, seeing your thinking process, and it will help you retain information about your successes and your failures in your job that could help you as you did something maybe 10 years ago. It's coming back now. They're looking for somebody with expertise who's been successful in that. Although it might have been 5 or 10 years ago, you may be fuzzy on some of the details of the things you did. But if you have a journal that includes all your significant accomplishments with measurable metrics, quantifiable achievements, that's going to make your resume so much stronger. So start keeping your resume today, or keeping your journal today, and I guarantee you it will pay dividends. So I hope this has been a beneficial presentation for you. Again, tomorrow at 11 a.m., I'll be here answering your questions. We've been getting a lot of good feedback on that post-broadcast, so I hope you'll join us. Thanks so much, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.